Many people are saying Konami is back. But who is to say? Do I say? I don't know if I say. But what I do know, and will say, is that Silent Hill F is probably the most hype I've been for a big studio release since Stranger of Paradise. And they basically made that one for me. Cause girl howdy, that initial trailer. Flowers as gore, woman horror, and the cool stylized letter in the title. Trust me, I was there for it. There for it, and that took months to finally play it way, but I mean, I had important things to do. However, just like the sushi she finds in the gore blood room, I knew it was there for me too. Like genuinely, this setting and how I engaged with it is perfectly attuned to my tastes. My favorite Silent Hills are easily 3, certainly its first half, and Shattered Memories. With the walk home along the winding liminal labyrinth of shops, restrooms, sewers, train stations, and apartments, or the quiet, cozy flashlight exploring of a sleepy, snowy town and its many buildings, roads, and back streets are the key moments at Key here. And so key here is the fact that we here are having this rural Japanese town, chock full of canals, farms, forests, bridges, alleyways, steps, and homes to move on about, similarly liminally. Personal tastes-wise, it helps as well that I am also from somewhere laid out much as such, and thus that being gameplayified into an exploratory puzzle of play really speaks to my childhood imaginations of exploring my own stomping grounds. And B, not to be all weeb, I'm not, don't worry, I promise. I don't even know what this is. Distancing yourself from anime. I did grow up on a lot of Japanese media, primarily games, and so I have an inherent fondness to the look of Japanese infrastructure and simply enjoying being in it. So, yeah, on like a core level, I was already in love with F from the moment I climbed my way on top of a wee rooftop from an alleyway, hopping off of a ridge into a tight backspace that was a private area between 2 houses to then squeeze between the adjacent homes behind it out into another street. That's such a fun way to engage with urban space, far as I'm concerned. Getting to get up all close and personal with its human-made detail and former lived-inity. Foggishly vacant former lived-inity. In a way, I would argue is different from the other Silent Hills just as well. There is no crazy broken up roads. No one is speaking in vague, dreamy lingo either, as these are our main characters, Hinako's childhood friends, and her hometown. When you explore the abandoned school, in this case, it is the familiar school she went to, nor are we trapped inside by some ethereal force. We can simply just leave. So then, when weird stuff does start happening to either places like the school or town or said childhood friends, by way of gore plantification infestation, it to me started to give ancient evil of nature rather than like drug money circumcision cult. The fog itself is quite emblematic of this too, I'd argue, in terms of how undense it often is, and the way it sits with the lighting, the setting, and the overall moisty, muddy climateness, making it look more just like, well, actual fog. You know, the weather. Instead of an oppressive, life-consuming wall, no matter how thick it might get out in the poop and piss fields. And like I said, there is no big craters or rust. It's all plant-based. Even at its gorest, it's rather organic semen, integrating with the space even, damn near mimicking power lines or pulsating tree roots. Pair that with the altar shrine prayers and the sleepy town lore local farm gods, and it really kind of reframes the Silent Hillities to be this ancient curse that has always been there. Which I suppose is not stuff that Silent Hill has always been doing. What with 3's Elden Metatrons and 2's Town being akin to an omnipotent punishment, but F still highlights those aspects in a different light. An overtly Japanese light that puts the game in a similar camp to me as dusty old PS2 horror releases like Q-On, Siren, or The First Fatal Frame, and newly inspired buys like Kawaii-don, Yomawari, or Atama, all of which carrying the qualities of an ancient cursed artifact. And while, unlike all of those, it is certainly a shiny new AAA release, it honestly took me aback how purposefully cryptic and obtuse it still is, like all of those aboves. Which, on that note, I have always played the Silent Hill series with every setting set to easy. I'm on here seeing bitches bitching about Silent Hill combat, never understanding why, because I simply pipe smacked and boot kicked the shit out of these penis monsters in like 2-3 hits with nae fucks to gives, having a great old time. After all, I am a bit of a hardcore gamer. And with more difficulty comes more sponge. And I take it folks instinctively pick normal because they are normal, so that then becomes the widely referenced experience. Awkward sponge combat. F ain't any different in that regard. I was already catching whiffs of stinky combat discourse, so I ain't picking any different neither. And as such, I did enjoy the combat here. Not as much as I do 3s, but the sledgehammer and spear still fucking ruled. And also the knife. Shout out the knife. Just so fast and nimble with big damages. Hell yeah. If people had any problem with this stuff, it sure as shit wasn't my problem to have, is what I'm saying. You know, opening this bottle of the drink weebs pretend to like is probably more of a struggle than any enemy I'll face in here, I know that's for sure. Like, I'd much rather get me some a good drink, so good, best. As for structure, Silent Hill F goes for the big town with more explore and less of the trapped inside of a single building that needs to be puzzle boxed to escape approach. It's not like open world at all though, by any means. In fact, the town is divided into pretty clear districts by story-driven chapters that take you there. Think of a residential part, a foresty part, a farmy part, the city center, and a few bigger buildings like the school, which way far into the game serves as the first traditional Silent Hill style map puzzle dungeon with all the locked doors, floors, and riddles following in tow. It's an interesting game, honestly. It's kind of both more linear and more open than the breadth of the series is, with a lot of intent and design going into, say, the foliage, lights, and the narrowness of streets, all serving to guide the player's gaze. Like the ways the horror manifests, it is again building on what was really always already there, honestly, but just framed and used differently through how a Japanese town be infrastructurally over an American one. And I love that. Like, I have urban planning autism, so seeing that shit inform game design tickles the shit out of my fancy. A lot of the hardcore puzzles, though, it seems to say for the other world in this case, which is the Eldon Japan Torii Gate Pagoda Zone, and while I dig these for the atmosphere, being that shit gets so PS2 horror, it's nuts, it also, puzzle-wise, sadly, gets so PS2 horror, it's nuts. Yeah, I own a Q-on shirt, but you think I'm playing that shit? No, that game's hard as balls. And the same can be said for F, because the F stands for, In general, I feel about F the way I do pretty much all Silent Hill games, really. Being that I love a good 70 to 80% of it, but then the last decent chunk will get more abstract and more combat heavy, and the puzzles will get tougher, and by then I really start to miss the cozy urban exploration that drew me in at the start. This, however, has yet to stop me from adoring almost every entry though, and F ain't no different. I find the plot pretty cool and interesting. I won't spoil nothing, if only cause I'm too lazy for story analysis on a shit this dense with themes and the like, but the themes and the like I do like, and like, they like resonate with me too. Stuff about domestic abuse and cringy gender norms garbage that get forced onto people, and substance issues and interpersonal teenager stuff. It's all very real shit, told quite flowery. I do kinda dislike that it does that Yoko Taro thing where you need to play it multiple times to get the full scope of the story, but I don't really care enough to care. Regardless, I had a pretty great time. And it's neat to see a proper new Konami release like this. Not that it was made by Konami in-house, but I mean, fuck it, we ball. Segue into the intro, bitch. Welcome to So I've Been Playing, the show where I talk about games and experiences I have experienced that I wasn't able to make fully fledged videos out of or repurpose otherwise, because I don't want to do more whole pussy coverage of MGS3 again. Certainly not so soon after the events. But I also don't want to not talk about it, you know? Because, I mean, we do have this raw PS2 audio coming out of these Unreal 5 graphics, giving immensely Frankensteinian vibes to me, and I love Frankensteinian. Shout out the Ito book. Shout out Young Frankenstein. Shout out the OG and those funny old black and white movies. Old cells, old genes, old memes, restitched, injected, and gauzed together into this Eraserhead baby of a release. Again, I say this all endearingly. That said, I recall seeing the trailers and press screenshots of this showing all the crazy environmental detail up close and thinking like, yeah, sure, that looks nice, but you'll never get to see all that like that in game. But no, I was dumb. This is MGS3. We're out here going prone and foist poison, stankin', snooping, and sneaking, spending more time than I'd like to admit looking at plants up close. Like, this already is a game where you can model viewer any old item, and as a hoe for 3D modeling, this is an instantism tickling wonder world for me. But first-person environmental snooping? Oh me, oh my. Shenmue, the Dragon Engine Yakuzas, the good adventure games, that's all adventure games, is my type of shit. Real admiring the craftspersonship that went into these wee polygonal objects type gaming. Like, the fact that the individual leaves have, like, bump mapping on them and unique brown blemishes and the whole dick veins or whatever you call those stemmy things, and that they got the shading on them to give that thickness of appearance, and then this one just randomly has like a hole in it. Ooh, hole. And don't even get me started on the dirt. The dead leaves, twigs, rocks, all the muddy, mossy mutations, elevations, color variations, and rotations of the land leading to trees with variances in bark structure and formation. Shout out how the mud glistens in the moonlight at night, the manner in which the leaves reflect its icy shimmers, the fashion of how the fog coats ferns in a wet sheen of dew. Just take a look at this fucking blade of grass, dynamically coming to life in the light of the night. And God, when it rains, every dripple a ripple upon water, every droplet a leaf, as if a sequin on a suit underneath the stage light. Rocks glisten, trees rustle in the aquatic death from above as distance turns almost into fog. Wet, dead leaves, dried out grass, withered and beige, set before a literal mountain of shit. Like, this rules. I love watching the mushy goop in the poop water as well, with the shadows cast by the trees up top dancing to and fro. Further down, we also see how the poop water and the poop mud realistically connect, and that despite it being dry now, wee droplets will still droplet on down from the titular to and fro-ers. The torchlight's so pretty too, by the way. It's giving real that one Dark Souls 2 trailer everybody loved. Oh, the lighting in general is incredible, but with the sunset peering through the crevassal crack upon cave exit, or the bright windy light on mountain top and the lens flares to rival those of MGS5 even. Kudos to the distant amber-tinged glows of the fluorescent lighting on the buildings outside at night as well, or how realistically lit up detailed concrete is up close. In general, the texture on the texture is fucking crazy. The tiles, a simple table or locker unit, even that shiny blade of grass from earlier has the pores on it and shit, but I also can't get enough of the metals, the scuffs, the paint chips. This game is pulling shit that could rival even RoboCop. Current activity. Torture. In regards to lighting, animation, and general detail on every single surface, texture, or object, it all comes together so super fucking well. Sometimes I'd just be posted up like how you're seeing now, admiring the shot I got as if a moving living painting. Like, all the wee moving bits and the density of it all too, and the shadow work and highlights looking as delicately placed as if by Bob Ross himself. Although, what is interesting is that the puke, the vomit tech, it's not really any better looking, I'll be real. We got this goddamn IRL-ass plant in front of it, but the puke, Yeah, just some kind of bump map shader goop still. Pathetic. Whole game ruined. Anyway, I really dig this quirky little port, which is how I've started looking at remakes and masters in general. Same way how back in the day you had Rayman 2, PS1, Rayman 2, Dreamcast, Rayman 2, PC, Rayman 2, N64, Rayman Revolution, it's really Rayman 2, Rayman 3, GBA, it's really Rayman 2, Rayman 3, N-Gage, it's really Rayman 2, Rayman DS, Rayman 3DS, Rayman 2, iOS, Rayman 2. For now, we have shit like Ratchet & Clank, but it's a movie tie-in. Spyro, but someone was really horny while designing the dragons. Demon Souls, but they took his grill edition. And MGS3, the Unreal 5 Frankenstein version, as merely some funny ports. And as such, I don't feel this need to excessively compare outside of it maybe being interesting or funny to do for a few very particular instances. Like, I mean, the new Ottenfrog clearly ain't the sick or your shit OG Ottenfrog, but I also dig the new one all the same because he looks grumpy and cute in a different way. But not for the sake of whether or not it preserves or conveys anything the same at all, just as how I wouldn't expect motherfucking RE2 Gamecom to be the de facto way to experience RE2. It is very cool how it includes things like the monkey hunting, which the 3DS release and the HD ports never did, but it still isn't the exact same thing with Astro Child Robosack being in there and shit, and so Delta is still very much its own experience for as far as I'm concerned. One I rather enjoyed, even if that was 90% because of the leaves, but I mean, hey, what can I say? Bada bing. The thing with that though, which I do really want to stress, is that they achieved such graphical detail by utilizing the fact that they were building off of the foundations of an existing game, thus skipping hella steps one would have to take otherwise to then free up more time to make what they were piling on top of as extra and lavish as possible. It's not realistic to expect detail as such from a big new open world game or anything like that. It helps as well, I take it, that it's also a very rigidly structured linear game and not said giant open world. If it was, I doubt we wouldn't be seeing individual leaf holes.
I'm in a box.
A cardboard box? Why are you...
I don't know, I was just looking at it and suddenly I got this irresistible urge to get inside. No, not just an urge. More than that. It was my destiny to be here. In the box.
Furthermore, both Silent Hill F and Metal Gear Delta are relatively tightly paced, story-driven 5 to 10 hour single-player experiences, which, when I think about it, have always sort of been Konami's whole bread and butter. Sure, they have a few fighters, racers, and RPGs, but by and large, they did the Silent Hills, the Castlevanias, and the Metal Gears as their big mains. And then as their one-off cult classics, they made the likes of Shadow of Destiny, Time Hollow, Never Dead, and Breeding Stud. Konami was the type of company where when you'd buy a weird-ass white jewel case copy of their game Psy Girls that no one has ever played, it would come with a goddamn fidget spinner. Guess what I'm saying is that because of the often lockdown scope, they weren't afraid to make games that were deliberately esoteric, experimental, or even obtuse. Think of the Castlevania series and how intentionally rigidly it controlled, or the Metal Gears and their weird control schemes suited solely for their distinct styles of play, and how that series would also focus on plot lines dense with twists and social political commentary to degrees a lot of big-budget AAA games don't quite dare to approach. And then of course there is the Silent Hills and their funky puzzles, cryptic storylines, and tones with purposefully stilted acting. And yeah, it wasn't just Konami doing this, of course, certainly not with FromSoft having been around all this time too, but within the realm of huge AAA publishers, they were a bit of an odd duck for being this way so consistently. And like, don't get me wrong, fuck all publishers and video games as an industry in particular, but if things are how they be, then within that space I wouldn't really mind a Konami coming back. And just as much, watch this segue. I'm super happy to see Keita Takahashi still being around doing his thing too. Formerly the brains behind Katamari Damacy, before then being kinda ousted from his own series as he wasn't interested in milking it into a series, with Namco going on to do exactly that without him, which is sadly very common. Konami ain't any different there either, certainly. Only reason Kojima kept doing the MGS games for as long as he did is because Konami would have one way or the other without him, and he didn't like that idea. But Keita didn't want to be tied down with that, ostensibly going indie in the later 2000s, with this latest effort being to a T. Now, normally, like Katamari, his games would be more mechanically driven, but to a T, instead, like the Konami maps, is also a locked-down, story-driven, linear narrative game. And so, what better video to crowbar it into simply because I wanted to play it than this one. And so we go from a F to a T, a short story release about a teen stuck in a T-pose shape navigating everyday life on this cute sunny island full of fun folks. Now while as stated it is not as gameplay driven as Keita's other games, the T-pose lifestyle is the main thrust of how one does. Controlling individual arms or the head in dedicated contextual situation sections, like say brushing teeth, eating meal, and taking classes. Though I will say, goddamn kid, brush those chompers before breakfast, not after. You brush in the morning to remove the germs you gather overnight. If you eat first, you're basically feeding the germs, which damages your teeth. Goddamn. Dental care advice with Thor. Woo! A lot of the experience is walking and talking, though, to be fair. Being about ostensibly disability and being a child, it is basically a game of the puzzle of everyday life. But in that, also the play of everyday life. Like the playing, the game. Balancing the hardships and joys of both and either. Like, it's not exactly Death Stranding or Quap or anything, but there is this inherent awkwardness to the controls that I really appreciate. Obviously, because of the T, navigating doors requires adjusting thyself by hand, and the teen will bump into passersby a lot on accident too, but even just the camera as well, and at school the stairs and floors and students anxiously clutter views claustrophobically, and when streets get busy with cars they also obscure the senses and orientations. It's some very real life dealing with disability in public type stuff conveyed kinesthetically to a T. The PE class minigame where they read out directions as words only to then make you D-pad them in even though left and right is hard. Like, I mean, I can muscle memory the buttons when indicated just fine because I know the controller, but saying left and right as words, like human ass direction as words, which is not buttons, then having to process that under pressure is Plus, it also shows the whole D-pad only highlighting the button thereupon, so it's not as intuitively legible to me than if it was only showing those. And so, yeah, like the whole fucking thing was so genuinely overstimulating that it did start to mirror what school was actually like for me. No less the sequence where you walk to it. That might have been the most I've related to a game in a while until the PE segment. Thing is, I might not have been stuck in a T-pose, but I imagine a fair few of us have our own versions of that. I, for one, am hella neurodivergent, stacking diagnoses like status effects, buffs, and debuffs. I'm also tall as heck at 6'6" and was, and still am, androgynous as hell. So I definitely didn't always have the easiest time in school or in public either, certainly not as a teenager. Even going to a special school, I wouldn't always get the help I felt I should have gotten in retrospect, so seeing the failings at science class or math or the always running late stuff or indeed the PE, it's like, yeah. And the fact that To a T conveys that to a T so elegantly, awkwardly, contextually, controllerly is fucking beautiful, if you ask me. In a lot of ways, it's kind of a love-alike. Think of Tulip, Moon, and Amnesia, Gift Pia, and other games a ton of y'all watching won't know, so these references won't resonate. But it is a bit like one of those, simply without the torture. But it has the daily routine stuff, the grind, getting ready every morning, disability style. The dreck that can be the trek to school, and meeting all the same folks around every day. It's even flush with themes like that too, and its approach to gender is also really amazing, not coding anything in any particular way. What you wear, your hair, your voice, body type, anything can be anything, with it having a canon they-them protag to boot. It's also, of course, about a 13-year-old on first day to school, and the T-pose is very much explicitly framed as a disability, like that's not just me reading it that way. So to that end, it is very much a game about the things that make us different or special and how those can affect us socially in everyday situations, good or bad. For instance, the thing that sets you apart might get you bullied, but it can also be a great advantage in other circumstances. Though that then in and of itself comes with baggage, and sometimes you also just don't want people to acknowledge you that way at all, and this story handles all of those fronts very well. Specifically because it has that core of finding the joys in life, and that distinct sense of play that still runs through To a T like it does all of Keita's other games. Because, I don't know, walking around here is just sort of fun. Something I would do as a teen was enhancing my commute to school by getting a nice meal at the bakery, or taking the scenic route, or traveling with friends. All things you can do to a T in To a T. See, the town is open but restricted. You can't cross roads outside of crossings, for example, likely because that's how the camera snap system is programmed, I think. But in that, you get these distinct highlighted places, these urban islands, this playing with space, for lack of a better way to put it, that is also easily my favorite aspect of Katamari Damacy sans the OSD. And said playing here translates to an exploring and socializing. Just like me, on the way to school, one can hit up the park, chat with DJ Pigeon, or hit up some shops. Do you take the unicycle, or do you walk? And I fucking love that energy. The contrast to days off from school days rules as well, being able to style it up with no uniforms and more freedoms of explore, maybe even doing some side quests like hairstyle collecting. And there's so many clothing options in shops too, and while strutting, one can stumble into coins, aka money everywhere, for said shops. It's simple, but it's still a perfect bit of synergy, and I can always appreciate a game where in not a single hour of footage I will be dressed the same. Gotta look colorful in this colorful town after all, which has such a sweet sunny vibe to it. All the sounds, the details, the various landmarks. It's not big at all, but it's perfect for the 5-hour story it carries. It is the type of game where one gets to play as the dog and find oneself whimsically rummaging through a tucked-away trash heap, a warehouse, and the sewers. There's even a bit where we run around with mom in our PJs through the rain with umbrellas, or a part where we go cycling in the park with friends, both in cases going after town mysteries. None of which I will spoil, but in parts it reminded me a lot of Attack of the Friday Monsters for 3DS, what with it having that same kids investigating urban legends trope that I really dig. Stuff like that really gets me to care for a setting and all the folks and critters living in it as much as it will with it boasting whole rants about appreciating train door mechanisms and how details like them are what make life beautiful. What a good-ass game. Possibly my game of 2025? Despelote, Death Stranding, Pirate Yakuza, the new Donk, and Mario Kart, Stray Children, and Dear Me I Was would also be strong contenders, but I haven't played any of them yet. I had kind of a wild year of big changes in which I couldn't focus nearly as much on playing hella large games back to back like how I used to. This will revert back to being a possibility over the course of 2026, I hope, in the summer most likely, alongside the acquirance of a new home, but for now, this is how it be. Either way, thanks y'all so much for sticking with me through it all though, and I hope you enjoyed the video too. Bye!